Welcome to the Secure Connections podcast, a weekly series for cybersecurity-minded MSPs brought to you by IOTSA, the Internet of Things Security Services Association. I'm Brian Sherman, Content Director for IOTSA, and I feel honored to be hosting today's episode on managing the threat response. Joining me in this conversation is a returning podcast guest, one of our favorites, Steve Weber, Global Solutions Engineer, MSP for Sophos. Welcome back to the Secure Connections podcast, Steve.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you back and chatting about security. I know it's been a little while since we last caught up. Probably seems more like a year with all the changes in the cybersecurity arena.
Absolutely. Probably has been about a year since we've actually been out anywhere.
Yeah, and it probably seems like 2 years sometimes too. I think it was January was my my last trip out. So we're at what, 8 months now? Wow. It could be another 8 months, but let's be hopeful that things will change soon. So, well, bring us up to speed on what you've been doing the past couple of months at Sophos. Well, first let's start with personally. How's everything in your world?
Everything my world's going pretty well. Obviously, we're all adjusting to the new post-COVID life of Zoom meetings, Zoom webinars, Zoom workshops. I'm really wishing that I had bought some Zoom stock beforehand, as I'm sure we all are. That company's just gone crazy. But yeah, I mean, threats for us have just been on the rise. So, I mean, our business, unfortunately, didn't see a decline business-wise. We saw an increase in business security just due to the fact that there's a lot more surface area out there with people working from home.
No, that definitely makes sense. I think the threat vectors have changed significantly, which is keeping everybody extremely busy. As long as it translates out to at least steady revenue, hopefully increasing revenue. But that's long term. Who knows how that'll shake out? But what are you seeing as some of the latest threat concerns?
Well, the latest threat concerns have been most of the steady ones are there. Ransomware is still going strong out there. What we're seeing is a little bit more of a targeted attack against customers, a lot more targeted phishing campaigns, a lot more on the active adversary. So where the bad guys are getting more sophisticated and working their ways into client networks. And, it's not just they drop the file on somewhere, hope somebody clicks on it and get it out there and ask for the money. They're doing the research. They're sitting on these machines with something of, I think it's almost up to a 3-month dwell time while they're looking around and hunting around these networks. So really that's where we've brought into this more of an active attacker mentality here at Sophos.
So you said active attacker, and I know the lag time is about 3 months. Do you think that's extended from where it used to be before? Are they becoming more patient in some cases, or are they working faster?
I think the bad guys are definitely becoming more patient on there. They're waiting to find, their pot of gold where they can find the data that they're looking for that's actually important to that company, find that data so they can exfiltrate it off there. Because, just encrypting data these points is not good enough. Hopefully everybody's got backups in place. Hopefully everybody's got good next-gen protection on there. But they've also got that data exfiltration that they're doing. So, the threat of releasing that data on the dark web. So obviously there's potential concerns for the company if, there's sensitive data, HIPAA, PCI compliance information on there as well.
Yeah, I think with so many people working outside the corporate firewalls too, that presented so many more opportunities and risk factors. It's kind of a lively arena for cybersecurity or cyber criminals.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, you've got a lot of these that were it wasn't really thought out, so we didn't have time for planning on that. So you have customers and MSPs scrambling to get people connected. And unfortunately, a lot of times you do see some of the best practices kind of put to the side just in order to get people in and working.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm thinking back about a year ago when I talked about proactive cybersecurity processes. We did a lot of those discussions at the IOTSA expos. But that seems to be changing what proactive cybersecurity means. Those activities used to be, more focused on the known vulnerabilities, blocking viruses, phishing attacks, other exploits. But And even though many MSPs are actively monitoring client systems for potential attacks, that was kind of the old proactive, and it's still important. It's not to discount those things, but that was what proactive encompassed. Now it seems like the latest technologies are moving even forward, allowing MSPs to put more focus on the real-time threats, giving an ability to even interrupt attacks as they occur. How did these type of solutions work? Because I know your team's been working on this very steadily.
Yeah, so this is probably one of the biggest and best, and there's a lot of companies out there that offer these types of services. Where we differ, and when we're talking that proactive approach, that's definitely where we come in and we shine. We have our products to go in there and block as many of those known and unknown threats as we can. And what we're starting to see is that we need to augment that security with not just products, but also people that understand behaviors in the environment, that can see something happen and pivot. And that's really where we get to this mentality of having a SOC service. So a security operations center running 24/7, monitoring your customers' networks, looking for any anomalies, looking for things that are outside of the norm, or something that might trigger an alert that maybe you would just look at normally and say, all right, well, that was an alert, but that threat analyst goes, I've seen that type of thing before, and can now dive into that and find the root cause and follow it down. And maybe that is just, maybe it's something benign. Maybe somebody ran a port scan and it's not a big deal, but maybe it is that active attacker sitting on your network. And yes, we want to grab them as soon as possible, kick them out of that network before they have a chance to get to their payload or deliver any malware.
Very good. I know one of the things I want to talk about was the managed threat response, and that's part of that, I believe. But is that something MSPs can easily deploy and manage, and kind of how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So our managed threat response, called MTR, is a new offering, and it sits on top of our Intercept X product. So if you already have Sophos deployed, it's a simple flip of a license for the MSP program to go in and turn that on. So you now have that full 24/7. And we do this in a couple of different ways because we are offering it as a service. It's not a product that you're buying. You're buying the services from Sophos, those threat hunters that you may not have inside of your environment. And what we find with that proactive threat hunting is most of our partners, we have an option to where we'll just take care of everything for you. You don't worry about it. We'll remediate it and then send you an after action report. But what we're seeing a lot of, and MSPs are wanting to be a little more hands-on and use the collaborate mode, so that when our threat hunters find something, they'll reach out to the contacts that have been given to us towards that MSP and work with them on getting to a resolution. And this is good for us as well, because obviously, the MSP knows their environment really well. They know if this is a software that is running that maybe triggered something in the environment. And then on the flip side, it's also a learning component for the MSP. They're learning what a threat hunter is looking for, the behaviors they're looking for. And, again, they can increase their knowledge on there as well. So that's been really good for us on that component.
Great. So is that something, I know you said that you can run it completely or they can collaborate on it. Can they set it at different times? Like, 9 to 5, they're collaborating, and off hours, it's more on your team. What's the type of engagement models that they can take advantage of?
Yeah, so it's full 24/7. So we don't have any times where we're off and we're off the clock. Now, during our collaborate mode, we do understand that some of our MSPs probably want to go home, see the family, go to sleep. So we do offer an authorized mode on top of that. So you can have collaborate. If you're available, we'll reach out, we'll call, leave messages, emails. And then if you can't get the last person on there, you can give us an option to say, hey, authorize. Don't wait until the morning until something happens. Take care of this threat immediately, and then just give us the after action.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's nice that you've got some scalability options for MSPs on that. But what are you seeing as far as response as which options working is more popular?
Yeah, definitely the more popular, again, is going to be that collaborate option. I think the learning component for the MSPs, and also the visibility. I mean, MSPs want to know what's going on. You want to know what's happening with your customers, because obviously, that's your lifeline out there. You want to make sure that they're being taken care of, and that just really gives a lot of flexibility. So you can understand what's going on, and you can make sure that we're not doing something that may cause a business interruption if, it is an application that is doing something it's not supposed to, but is legit, which happens. I mean, we do have, prime example is we had a company come in without letting us know, and they had a penetration test done in their environment, and they had us in authorized mode, and we came in and shut down that pen tester. We didn't know what was going on. Nobody notified us, so we went and took care of that for them on their behalf and sent them the after action report on that one. So it is good to have a collaborate. Again, there may be something where we see it on there and like, well, hold on, this is authorized. We're doing this on purpose.
Well, on the other hand, the pen test worked because you were able to shut it down. So that's got to give them some security on that part.
Yeah, the MTR worked. The pen test didn't work.
Yeah. Well, it technically did though, because it shut it down.
Yeah, triggered.
Awesome. So how do you see IT service companies incorporating these services into their cybersecurity stack?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of MSPs that are starting to move, and this is really, and I had some interesting conversations last week on this, but it's really being pushed by the whole cyber insurance. Had a conversation with a partner last week, and they needed to provide some sort of a 24/7 monitoring to meet the needs for the cyber insurance that they were applying for. And that meant either they had to build these services into their practice, or they needed to come to a third-party vendor who had a 24/7 monitoring and incorporate that. So what we've really found is that there's two kinds of partners out there. One that's going to just say, hey, this is now our de facto standard offering. This is what everybody gets. This is what all of our customers get, and they just bake that cost into the next bill. And then you will have those partners that offer tiered services as well. You've got to come in and get on the base level and have at least our managed threat protection on there. So the prevention side of it, the Intercept X component for us in the Sophos world. And then they add a premium service, which they can then go and charge additional to their customers for, which is then where you get that 24/7 SOC offering.
Yeah, no, it goes back to that flexibility too of being able to have that added protection on top of things. So cybersecurity in general is getting extremely advanced. We see, on the good side. We know it's getting advanced on the cyber criminal side too, so it's hard to keep up. But with things like machine learning, collaboration, co-managed platforms, there's so many different options for MSPs these days. At the end of the day, they need to sell solutions, get paid more to cover the cost of additional services. That seems to be the challenge, especially if you've got a fair amount of nonprofits. The cost factor can be an issue in security, even though we know it's crucial. So some MSPs like to justify the added cost of new innovation by sharing details with their clients, a lot of details. And that's where I think they get into trouble, whether they're tech-minded or not. What's your advice for educating business customers on the latest methodologies? How do you see them having the most success?
Yeah, so as far as updating, I'm assuming we're talking about for the MSP to update their customers on what's going on.
Everything going on, right? Is when you're trying to have a good sales conversation and say, here's the reasons why we need to move ahead, it can get really complicated, and some make it complicated because they've got a lot of information to share. What's the best way of kind of conveying it, new tech?
Yeah, so we have quite a few options here at Sophos. As far as training, so obviously we want to make sure the MSP partners train, they know what's going on from a sales and marketing standpoint, as well as the technical on the back end. When it comes to kind of teaching your customers or trying to explain to them why they need these additional protections, that definitely gets tough. And when we start hearing these buzzwords in the industry like machine learning and deep learning, all these different components. Just keep in mind that these are working for us. So even in our managed threat response, most SOC services out there, machine learning is a huge component that is used to bring that information to the threat analyst. The bad guys are also taking advantage of machine learning as well. They know that they can program against with their knowledge to go in and have a machine do a lot of the heavy lifting for them. So this is where we really need to come in, and that's the explanation we're going to have to get to the customer is, these new amazing tools that we have to bring more added security have also bad consequences to them as well, because they can bring further advancements to the bad guy who is now leveraging them to get into your environment and automate his way around and poke around. So, I mean, that's really, again, where this active adversary comes in. A lot of times it is somebody, hand jamming on the keyboard, but a lot of times it's probably just an automated process. And there's a lot of tools out there that allow them to do that and, run a script and give them the data at the end of the day. And, oh, that's not what I was looking for. Let's modify and tweak it and, pivot in the environment. And again, that may go unnoticed. And what we're seeing is a lot of times that does go unnoticed. And if it's a non-Sophos customer, what we'll see is we'll get a call on the weekend. And this usually happens on, late day Friday, early morning Saturday, Sunday. We'll get a call that, hey, we've had a breach. Is there anything that you can do at Sophos? And we've developed a new service called Rapid Response, to where you don't even have to be a Sophos customer, but we'll jump into action. We have a Rapid Response SKU, obviously we sell, and that our MSPs can sell it there and utilize. We'll come in, drop our software on there, start to immediately do a threat hunt inside of their environment. So it is a great way if you're an MSP to, if you have a customer or somebody's reaching out to you, this is a great way to go in if they've got a problem and be that hero, solve the problem that they're having with, people and a solution, and then bring that additional sale forward. Because now you have, all right, obviously the products you were using were not sufficient to stop this attack. Here's what we need to do to increase that protection. We need this level of monitoring all the time, 24/7, not just in an incident response.
Right. So, yeah, when you've got the less tech savvy clients that you're working with, I know there's a lot of information I can throw at them, but I like your analogy of, being able to match tech. You have to match tech with the bad guys. They're coming armed. It's kind of like a battle. We can't be under prepared without enough technology to be able to take it on. But yeah, for the tech-minded, like co-managed IT, those conversations I know are a lot different, where you can maybe get a little more in depth with, what the processes are and who exactly is involved and the type of specific innovations that are involved in it. But that's a hard balance, I think, sometimes too, is making sure you're checking who's your client you're talking to or who's the customer you're talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the co-managed environment is definitely a completely different conversation, and it's one that is a little more difficult because there are some there's some secret sauce behind the scenes you can't always show from a security operation standpoint. Yeah. But we do try to make that as easy and as transparent. So when we have a lot of MSPs out there that do co-managed, and they give the customer access to their dashboard, to, in our case, our Sophos Central dashboard. So they have access to see all of the alerts, all of the endpoint detection and response. They can go in and view a lot of these very powerful tools that the MSP is sitting on and using, and utilize those themselves as well.
Yeah, no, that's a handy tool to have, especially with so many of the large companies having distributed workforce now. We're seeing a huge opportunity for MSPs, to grab some of that business, or even if it's just regionally, being able to support certain parts of larger companies and take whatever is available in there and cut that piece of the pie out. It's which is good. That's the one advantage, I think, of the pandemic, is it has created some new and different opportunities for the channel.
Yep, absolutely.
So with the rapid evolution of cyber threats, what do you see is coming next, Steve? I know you're talking to a lot of cybersecurity. You are a cybersecurity professional, but you're in these conversations pretty regularly. What's on the horizon?
Obviously, I wish we could tell you everything that's going to be coming out, and we had that crystal ball and could make the tech before the bad guys can figure it out. One thing we are seeing, though, is a big risk factor that's out there, and it's been out there for a while. And I know I've preached about this before, and we've talked about this on different IOTS podcasts and live events that I've done. And this really goes back to the MSP. The MSP really needs to get in there and not only sell these types of services, but use these services themselves. Get some sort of managed SOC system in place for your organization. Make sure that you have the best protections that you have. You are carrying the keys to the kingdom when it comes to your customers. Most times you've got RMM tools which have direct remote access to not only businesses now, but now that we're this huge distributed workforce, you've got access to home environments and all these different locations. So it makes it a lot more difficult, and it makes it a lot more spread out. And if you don't protect your environment, that bad guy now can work his way in, and you're probably not the what he's looking for in the end result. He's looking for all your customers, and that's a great way to go out of business quickly, unfortunately. So definitely make sure you've got the protections on there, and do audits. Whether it's every 6 months, once a year. Have a third-party company come in and just audit your network. Make sure there's no vulnerabilities inside of your system. Make sure your processes are intact.
So not just for compliance, but also for cyber liability insurance you talked about earlier. But there's a whole host of reasons for making sure you're tightening down your own internal systems before doing the same thing with clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even some of that comes down to a role-based administration, and I know a lot of MSPs are definitely guilty of this. And it's very easy. You've got all your admins that are running around, and we just give them access to all of the customers. Let's make sure that all of our techs have access to all of the customers, and maybe all of the tools that we're using. Maybe they don't need access to all of the tools, so you can kind of rein in and restrict access where needed. Give certain techs or access to certain customers and certain tools, and you kind of have to rein a lot of that technology in so that it's just not wide open. Everybody has access to everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know we always like to look at the sexy things that are coming down the line on not only what are the bad cyber threats, but also the tools that you'll have available to take care of them. But honestly, it comes back to the basics many times, doesn't it? It's making sure the end users are trained and doing smart things, which is something that's never going to get easier, I don't think.
No, it's definitely not going to get easier.
And then, implementing all of the tools and internally and processes and everything else. So it's the good news for MSPs is that I don't think they're ever going to run out of things to do when it comes to cybersecurity for their clients.
No, as long as they're they're paying attention and they're keeping on top of the new evolving tech out there. I mean, it is busy for an MSP. Coming from an MSP, years before starting Sophos, it was always a constant evaluation of the new products, new services, the new tools. What should we be doing to protect not only ourselves but our customers? So it is definitely a constantly evolving environment.
So with the new services you have, and I'm going to be careful not to call it technology, the new services that you're offering with Sophos on top of the solutions that you have, what's the best way? Are there additional resources you have available for MSPs?
It's really for MSPs and for all of our customers. So yeah, with the managed threat response on there, it adds a layer of people to your organization. So threat hunters. One of the really cool features, because it isn't, there's a lot of automated, there's a lot of lead-driven and leadless threat hunting that goes on in the back end that you don't see. But one of the really cool components that we offer to our MSPs is the ability to kind of pick up a bat phone, if you will, and call and say, hey, I'm seeing something weird on the network. I'm getting these weird reports. Can you dive in and start taking a look at it? And just triggering a manual threat hunt, if you will, inside of there. So that's a nice component to be able to add to that. And again, if there's MSPs out there that they're not using Sophos, they want to take a look at the technology, or maybe they have a particular customer that's run into trouble and they've gotten ransomware, they've gotten attacked inside of their environment. And that's where our rapid response comes in. It's a service. It's wrapped around some of our hardware and technology. But again, it's a reach out to us. It's a service that you can offer to the customer. Bring in the experts, have them hunt down that threat in the environment, help eliminate it, and get you back to a working state.
Very cool. So in particular with MTR and rapid response, where can, in addition, they can go to IOTSA because the partner page for Sophos to learn how to get in contact with Sophos, but are there any particular resources you would send them or places you would send them to check out more details?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sophos.com is going to be the best place to go for all of your information. You'll go into our business products and you'll see our Sophos Central. You'll see our managed threat response inside of there. If anyone's wanted to learn a little bit more about maybe the machine learning, I know we were talking about this machine learning and AI being used in the environment. We actually recently launched with our Sophos Labs team ai.sophos.com, and it's an artificial intelligence. It's everything to do about AI in the business sector, in the cybersecurity space. The team is constantly posting new updates. It also goes into a little bit about kind of how we're using artificial intelligence to protect our customers.
Very cool. And I think you have Naked Security is another place that I've seen some very cool information on cybersecurity as well.
Yep, definitely so that's our blog. They update that almost every day, it seems like. There's constantly new cyber threats out there. Yeah, if you're not signed up to the Naked Security blog, I absolutely recommend it.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Steve. Any final thoughts before we sign off today? It's amazing how fast the time goes.
Yeah, it definitely flies by pretty quick. Final thoughts, just come and check us out, over sophos.com/MSP. If you have any questions, reach out. We'd love to get in touch with you, have a conversation, how we can grow your business alongside of Sophos. Other than that, make sure everybody stays safe out there, and I'm rather looking forward to getting back on the road and seeing everybody in person.
Yeah, the bar bill is going to be huge when we get back out on the road. I can just imagine.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of drinks and a lot of therapy, I'm assuming, at the golf course.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you. Looking forward to getting back out on the road sometime in 2021. Let's hope it's sooner rather than later.
Awesome. Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. A big thank you to Steve Weber of Sophos for joining us today. To everyone who took time to listen in to today's podcast. As we quickly approach the 3-year anniversary of the Secure Connections podcast, I encourage our listeners to check out our extensive library of past episodes. You can listen at the IOTSA website. You can also see it in the video version. We also are on Google Play, Spotify, and other popular listening forums. Thanks again for joining us, and be sure to have a safe and secure day.